Welcome back to IntelliLogic's podcast. Join me on this engaging conversation with Ben Bobo, CEO of Retreiver Medical. Ben discusses the innovative Clot Hound device designed to revolutionize the treatment of pulmonary embolism, PE, and deep vein thrombosis, DVT. He shares insights into the current state of the medical device industry, the importance of AI in healthcare, and his personal journey from military pilot to CEO. Well, remind me, Ben, where are you calling out of? You're on the West Coast, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Vegas, yeah.
About 30 minutes outside the strip. So we live sort of near horse ranches.
So is that considered, that's not Henderson then, right? I'm not familiar with Vegas very well.
No, Henderson is going to be South Vegas. So if you first come into Vegas on I-15, the first sort of setting that you see to your right as you're going north is going to be Henderson.
Okay.
And then beyond that, you get into Vegas proper. And then beyond that, if you keep going north towards the mountain range, that's where I'm at, sort of the northwest quadrant of Vegas.
So you're far enough away. Like 30 minutes is good. You can go when you want.
You know, people that live here rarely go to the strip.
I hear that. Yes.
It's funny. You see all these things like, Vegas is dying. I will tell you this. I do agree that when the mob left and then corporate took over, especially recently, I've been here about 4 years, they've just gotten way more greedy. I mean, like everything is noticeably more expensive, even to the locals.
Really?
Like $50 to park, $25 for a drink, and then they have all these taxes. If you spend the night in a hotel, you all of a sudden get your bill. They'll say, look, your hotel room is like, let's say $100 a night. When you get done, it's more like 150 when they start throwing all the taxes in. So, it's not like a quick hitter for people that don't have a lot of money or young couples. It's changed a lot.
It's funny. I started going to Vegas at a young age because my mom worked for a company that they would take an annual trip there. So I started going at like 12. And I loved going because of the shows and stuff, And my parents loved going because you could go to like a buffet for like $10. Like it was super cheap. And now you go to a buffet, it's $80 a person. It's like a lot different. For a female that doesn't eat a whole lot, I love a buffet because I get to pick what I want, but then I will never get my money's worth in that scenario. So right. Yeah, it has changed a lot just for food and everything out there.
Exactly.
But I love Vegas. Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate you being flexible that we needed to reschedule. That was one of the reasons was because we were flipping it to this Riverside platform and I was having some issues. I'm like, I just don't want to. There are some really good pieces to it, especially for editing. So I wanted to use it, but I appreciate you being willing to wait. So
absolutely. I'm just trying to see what's interesting because I'm used to using Zoom. And Zooms will give you, which is fine. It gives you different backgrounds, but mine's just a white, boring background, which is fine.
That's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna make it look good when I edit too. I mean, I won't be able to change your background, but it'll look a little more professional. At the end of the day, this is a very informal podcast, but we are in the process of launching. So what I wanted to do is give you a quick recap because I know we didn't talk live prior to the call or prior to the podcast. So I'll give you a quick recap. IntelliLogic specifically, we are very heavy centered on AI solutions in the medical device space, specifically for distributors. So on the sales channel for the most part. And so this podcast was born off of hundreds of conversations that I've been having and everybody kind of having similar pain points. And so the idea of creating a platform where it could be sort of a wealth of knowledge for folks to jump on and listen in came to mind. And also the idea of taking folks like yourself and potentially exposing them to distribution channels of independent distributors that maybe have a real need or, relationship handshake introductions that could potentially happen off of this.
Yes.
That's kind of my goal. My interview, so to speak, with you is going to be 30,000 foot overview of the product itself, and then kind of just want to hear your background, your pain points, and really what your goal for Retreiver Medical is, moving forward.
Great.
So
yeah,
that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to jump in and answer those questions and hopefully be helpful. I think AI is critical to many levels of medical device or business or whatnot, as you well know. So whether you're running a company or trying to put together a sales team or trying to find investors, I'm in a process right now that's heavily AI driven. So I'm happy to jump into that and give some hopefully helpful perspectives. Can you give me 1 second? I got to put my dogs away so they don't go crazy.
Yeah, I had to do the same. I get it. Take your time.
Let me go grab them and get them out of the way.
Okay, sure. Oh,
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back.
that's okay.
I have dogs that hear a noise and it's like, woof. It's like, you ever seen Finding Nemo and Dory? She sees a bright light and it's like,
Uh-huh. 100%. So I have a golden retriever who is, looks just like your logo. And I have a golden who someone could come in and murder all of us and he would like lick them. It would
oh
not.
goodness.
And then I have a little tiny Cavapoo that's like 12 pounds that thinks that she can just murder everyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's not mean. She just wants to bark at everybody. So, but yes, I had to put her away because I do primarily all my work from home. So it can get a little hairy
Yeah.
when I'm on a video call.
That's right.
So your last name, what's the best way to pronounce it?
Bobo.
Just Bobo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I don't.
Hey, you know what? Growing up with that last name, it gives you a sense of humor.
I love it. Yeah, you can't be sensitive, right? You just got to embrace it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's why I have a sense of humor and I laugh a lot. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. My husband doesn't remember Bobo the clown. I explained that to him, and he's like, "What?" I was like, "Where were you? Did you grow up at the same time as me?" But we've had that conversation. Okay. So, all right, I'll just kind of kick it off, introducing myself, and then we'll jump right into it. I've got a list of, like I said, very surface level questions, nothing that you would have needed to prepare for by any means. So, okay. All right, welcome everybody. We are back with IntelliLogic's podcast this week, and we are chatting with Ben Bobo from Retreiver Medical, and I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about your product and the DVT and PE help that you can do. So, Ben, if you want to just take a moment, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the Hound and the product that you have.
yeah, hey, thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. So yeah, Retreiver Medical was formed in 2020 with a mission to not revitalize, but change the way we think about removing clots from the lungs and the legs. And as part of that process, we came up with a device called the Clot Hound. And it's a singular design that can be applied to both PE, pulmonary embolism, and deep vein thrombosis, DVT, where it doesn't require the physician to have two separate devices to have to figure out and think through in a given procedure. What makes this really unique is we have two independent uniaxial spheres on the device, a distal and a proximal sphere that can be controlled by the physician, and the physician's input with the slider can dictate the amount of force that is applied to the clot in this case to remove the clot. So it's a very unique design. It provides embolic protection integrated. It provides single access to the patient. So keep in mind that if you're dealing with clots in the lower extremities, oftentimes you have to do a dual access. One goes in the IJ, one goes in the femoral groin. And the reason it goes in the IJ is you're trying to provide like an umbrella so that as you disrupt the clot, you have a mechanism to capture the clot so it doesn't go further into the lungs. So we have a unique device that provides an integrated embolic protection. It's a single access device. And when you think about exchange efficiency, so that means how many times you have to take this device in and out of the patient. Our device only has to be placed once and taken out once, whereas competitive devices are pulled out routinely in a given procedure up to 5, 6, 7 times to remove the clot from the catheter, sort of make it patent again before they place it into the patient. So kind of high level, that's what we're working on at Retreiver. It's a hot space. I don't know if you recall, you saw the news, but in February, Stryker acquired Inari for $4.9 billion. So that just tells you that the venous thromboembolism space is hot. It's got incredible reimbursement, and there's a lot of strategics looking for competitive devices that can compete with Stryker today.
Absolutely. Yes. And I took a little bit of time to watch some of the videos on the website, so I highly recommend anybody that's tuning in to do that. this is not my area of expertise, but I certainly, I'm just kind of blown away by what you said in terms of the one placement. And you discussed that there are two of the, what did you call it, that actually open up and help pull the clot out. What's it called?
Yeah, we have two spheres in our device. One's a
Spheres,
distal
yes.
sphere, so think of it like a catcher's
Yeah.
mitt, and one's a proximal sphere that can actually move axially on the body of the catheter 5 centimeters. Meanwhile, the doctor has control of both spheres where they can open and close the sphere, what we refer to as active controlled expansion. So if you look at it compared to competitive devices, it's the only device in the market that has two spheres that are actively controlled, so you can actively expand it up to 22 newtons of force in the vessel. And it's the only device that gives them that embolic protection. So right now, if you look at devices, because we have such incredible patent portfolio, they often come with a single sphere and it's a pullback design. So when you open the sphere up, you got to drag it back into a catheter. And the risk is when you do that, you can dislodge clot that goes further into the body. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Absolutely. Okay. So now these are, in terms of your market penetration right now, where are these being utilized? Is it, I know your base is your manufacturing and your home base I know is out in Nevada, but where are you having utilization at the moment with your product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're an early stage medical device company and we're still in the development phase, which is phase two. We're about
Okay.
5 months out of phase two design validation, which would then take us into verification validation. But having said that, we've done several animal studies. We've actually gone through histology through a company called Flagship Biosciences in Colorado. And so in the animal studies, the focus was on safety and efficacy. The first animal study, we had our own protocol. The second animal study followed the protocol from the FDA that they concurred with. And again, in that protocol, before we go into the GLP animal study, we wanted to make sure that the device is safe and efficacious. And in that second study, interestingly enough, we actually overexpanded the device 200% to the vessel ID. So imagine your vessel ID is, let's say, 8 millimeters. We were 200% to that ID on our OD of our sphere. And when we did that, we then took the sphere and we scrubbed the wall of the vessel. And the reason we did that, we wanted to assess what's the impact of a sphere that's overexpanded in the vessel on the endothelial lining. Was there any damage? And here's the kicker. We sent this to Flagship Biosciences for the histology study, and every sample came back as essentially normal. Regardless of the expansion force applied to the vessel, it all looked normal, which is because we have a rounded wire design that doesn't cut into the vessel, but it actually elongates. As you open up the sphere, it'll just take on the shape of the vessel, elongate, and distribute the load over a greater cross-section of the sphere. So it's really important because we're the only device that provides active, controlled expansion. Other devices are self-expanding nitinol. So you pull it out of a catheter and it pops open. The problem is when you get into impacted organized clot, it doesn't pop into the clot, nor does it remove it. Our device is the only device that can engage the clot and then curatize it from the wall and actually remove it. So think of it this way. I talk to so many physicians that'll say, look, competitive devices, like if I have patients that present with pulmonary embolism, 30% of their patient base or caseload, 30% of these patients end up with clot left behind after the procedure. They can't remove it. 30%. It's impacted in the lungs. And if you think about lungs, we're upright mammals, right? So blood flows down into our lungs to perfuse the blood so it's oxygenated so it can go to the arterial side like a choo-choo train and bring oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Well, if you have a big portion of your lungs that shut down because of clot you can't remove, those people are going to be in a deficit most likely the rest of their lives. In the case of deep vein thrombosis, 70% of those people that present have chronic wall adherent thrombus because it's a 10 to 15 year disease process. So by the time they show up in the ER, they've got a well-developed disease state. And again, the majority of these products that are FDA approved can't remove the wall adherent chronic thrombus.
Wow. Okay. Well, what a selling point. I mean, wow, that's a big difference. 30%.
30% in the lungs. So 30% of the patients that present in the lungs with PE have
They can get
impacted
it.
thrombus that the doctors can't remove. It's
Yeah.
just they don't have the tools.
So I can't help but notice, like, I mean, obviously this is a big deal and you're very passionate about it. What kind of led you to where you are? What's your background in, Ben, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, if I go back, I think where it all started for me was obviously, the college experience where I went to college, University of Utah. I had a passion to fly jets in the Air Force. I got a pilot slot, flew in the Air Force pilot training, and then which gives you a lot of, what you'll notice in life is that people sort of migrate to careers that represent their personality and their tolerance for risk, right? So early on, riding, racing dirt bikes, parachuting, it's like live life, taste death kind of perspective. So
Yeah.
I share all that with you because it led me to where I'm at today. And so out of the Air Force, I joined a company called Milliken and Company, which won the Malcolm Baldrige Award in '89. I'm kind of dating myself here, but it's important because that company provided 40 hours a year that they paid for training. And when you come out of the military, on their construct of how they lead and manage people, it's a lot different than the civilian world. So it gave me a nice transition into the civilian world. And then from there, I joined Edwards Life Sciences as an associate sales rep. Got my first taste of medical device sales. They put me with the best top performers in the company to think about how to organize and manage your territory. So that was quite frankly a blessing. So
Yeah.
that kind of gave me the springboard into the next phase, which was startups. And I think this is where it kind of comes into personality. There are people that really like the big companies because it's safe, it's predictable, it's consistent. There's certainty with that, as long as you got growing sales and the business doesn't crash. But there's security in that. Then you got the startups where there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of uncertainty. So it really draws a certain personality, people that bet on themselves, people that are comfortable with uncertainty, with risk. And so I bring that up because that's an important distinction, because where I ultimately ended up as a CEO has a lot to do with my personality and my comfort with believing in myself, taking on the risk, seeing opportunities. And I think all along that continuum of my career, it sort of led me to the point where I'm at today, where I could assess opportunities. So how did I found Retreiver Medical? Well, you have to have those active listening skills, right? So I met with a wonderful partner, Dr. Michael Horowitz in Florida. And when I was meeting with him on a different project, he had this incredible placard in his office. And it was basically two spheres that was in a vascular structure. And those two spheres were originally designed for, PTO, or sorry, large vessel occlusive strokes, LVOs, or even SVOs. And we took that idea and we pivoted to Retreiver Medical. But the point was, my whole progression, my career starting off in sales. Like, why did I start off in sales? Because I wanted to understand the animal I was selling to. What did that prep me for? Well, that prepped me for marketing, because once I understood how they operate in an OR environment or an ER environment or an ICU environment, and you understand the pressure pain points, guess what? When you go into marketing, you're now more versed to really understand who you're marketing to. And then for marketing, business development, general management, leading R&D teams, going really on the deep end of the technical side. So all these things prep me for the ability to assess opportunities. I was also in business development, but to assess opportunities and to be able to pick ones that I thought were big markets, really solved huge unmet clinical needs. Because ultimately, when you come out with a medical device, it's not because you want a Me Too experience. You want something that's disruptive, but also is in line with how people have practiced, right? So you want to have something that is in line with a physician's protocol, but at the same time, it really addresses the unique unmet clinical needs. And so there's an art in that. So all along the continuum of my career, it sort of built me to this point where I could assess. And when I met with Dr. Horowitz, I could quickly see, like, this could be applicable here. In other words, peripheral. And there was some parallels with Inari Medical that had a similar design, but not an effective design. So, it's funny how all your experiences in life bring you to this point. And as a CEO, your comfort zone of taking on risk, I think, is important. But the other thing I'd say to my younger self, honestly, if I had to do it over again, I wish at 26 I just took that leap and became a CEO. You'd probably be saying, and your audience would be saying, like, yeah, but you're not really ready for it. And my response and retort would be, are you ever really ready for it? Any career you've taken on, any role you've taken on, are you really ready for it? Or did you have a mentor? Or do you just take massive action to fill in the deficits of what you didn't know, right? So I would say to everybody, hey man, if you're in your 20s, you want to be a CEO, go do it.
Yeah.
And you say, what about not successful? That's the whole point. You don't necessarily need to be successful in the first goes because most people aren't. Even the most experienced ones aren't. But along the way, you get such incredible experience and exposure to people and disciplines, right? Because some of us didn't study accounting. Some of us didn't study engineering. Some of us didn't study manufacturing. But guess what? As a CEO, you bring all those skill sets together, and guess what you end up marinating in? A little bit of everything. And guess what happens to your competency and your awareness and your skill sets? It all rises, right? To become more of a generalist and understanding the different segments that make up.
Right. Well, and it takes folks like that to bring innovation to the market, right? And it's people that are willing to take risks, and especially, speaking to our audience, I know a lot of the folks that I speak with are on the sales side. They are in a distribution type of role, and they own their own distribution outlet, right? Specifically in the medical device space, whether that be implant based or across all boards, really, disposable biologics, whatever it may be. And that's one of the reasons that this podcast was really born, and Telelogic was really just kind of helping them in discovering their own roadmap and really how to get there quicker, because an exchange of knowledge and experience in a platform like this can be super helpful. You have a device that is vastly different from the ocular conversation I just had 2 weeks ago for, ophthalmology, but there are shreds of commonalities, and how, it's a startup and you take risks, and there's a lot invested, not just money, but time and, seeking capital. And you're just in a lot of these maybe uncharted territories, but you got to go through it to figure it out. And you bring people together that know what they're doing. And if nothing else, you become a master of finding the right team, and I think that that's something that, from owning businesses for the past 16 years myself, I've gone through a lot of these pain points. And so, and that's where, with the Intellilogic side of things that we are doing, we're trying to marry all of the AI solutions we have out there with the motivation and the human aspect of folks like yourself. Like, put these two together and let's have a fast track to market, when you're ready, kind of thing. So, for you, obviously it's a startup at this point. You're getting closer. Do you have a estimated launch for getting this in the hands of surgeons and being able to be used?
Yeah, great question. So based on current forecasts and funding, Q2 2027 will be through the FDA clearance process and doing a soft launch with the DVT system. The PE system is going to require a 106 patient IDE study. So 2027, always dependent upon funding, but we've got some great things that are big momentum builders. The other thing I'd say to you, because I was in sales for 12 years, and this is a different era we're in. And so if I was a sales rep looking at, or distributor looking at, how do I connect with startups or whatever? One of the things I'm learning right now in raising capital is LinkedIn is hyper powerful. More importantly, Sales Navigator is it's like your kryptonite. It's super powerful because you have the ability to search and then filter through exactly what you're looking for. And then there's programs where you could reach out to these people automatically. You could be asleep at night and it'll send very curated messages and scripts to the people you're trying to connect with. And this is all AI automated. And so as you're trying to think about how do I break into a market, or how do I reach this person? For example, it would look for people on LinkedIn that's posted recently, and it then allows you to comment on their post and then start to develop a relationship and connection, whether, pulmonologist, cardiac surgeon, urologist, whatever your specialty is. There are tools, and by the way, you can do it by geography. So if I'm covering a 3-state territory, you can relegate it to those 3 states, to those disciplines you're trying to target, because everybody's on LinkedIn for the most part. And so there's ways you can curate a very personal connection, and then a few days later you can set it up where it'll then send a script, and you can have 4 scripts that it sends out over time as you're trying to connect with and develop relationships with people. Because ultimately, whether you're raising money or going to a doctor, it's about the relationship. That's why they vetted the Sunshine Act, right? Because people abused it.
Yes.
It's all about relationships. It's all about, one of the things I'd say to everybody, and if you go to my website, you'll notice that what I focus on is the benefits. Forget the feature, that whatever, it's the benefits. You're not buying the feature, you're buying the outcome for you. It's like when you buy a drill, you're not buying the drill, you're buying the hole. And so if you're a rep out there or you're a CEO and you're trying to pitch, you got to think about what's the benefits for an investor? Why would they want to invest in me? Am I investable? Would they give their hard-earned capital to me, really? Or as a rep or a distributor, why would they want to buy product from me? How do I separate myself from all the other incredible reps? Because there's a lot of incredible people out there. So that's where I think AI can help you separate your strategy and your approach and try to start to connect, especially if you're brand new, you just started your distributorship, or if you've been out there a while and you're trying to rekindle the fire with certain people. It ultimately comes down to that. But I'm just saying there's a lot of tools out there that I'm sure your company is helping people get connected to.
Yes, that exact one you're talking about, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's there.
Yeah, it's there. And, you know, Ben, you make a really good point. You can have the best product in the world, but, you know, a lot of these, whether it's surgeons or anybody, we are all overstimulated with everything that's thrown at us every single day. And we're also live in a world where AI can be abused and is abused by people, and sometimes you just don't know what's real and what's not. And so to have a human behind it, you can put your systems in place, but ultimately you're laying a foundation for a relationship that can be established. And at the end, you want to interface like you and I are right now. People do crave that. It's just a matter of getting through the weeds of getting something on the calendar with someone. And then all of a sudden now, Ben and I know each other's face and we're communicating. This is even better than if we had just had a simple phone call. You feel more of a connection with someone, and I'm going to remember you more. And, it's burning that image into your brain. And so I think from a sales perspective, with a lot of the organizations that we talk to, they're beating the pavement, right? Every day. And they're trying to knock on doors, and they're leaving pamphlets and brochures and folders and hoping that they're going to get a call. And that just doesn't work anymore. I don't know if it ever really did, but what it's doing is you're just killing trees. You're just having things reprinted, and what's happening is your gatekeeper's taking it and they're throwing it in the trash most of the time, or the physician is. And so I've done it for more years than I'd like to admit, and those methods just don't work. And we are in a place where it sounds like you guys are already leveraging it in some capacity or the other, or you will be when you're ready. And so, that is something that we talk a lot when we have our consulting clients, is how can we get you and your personality in front of your target audience? And a lot of times, specifically to the model you just mentioned, we really encourage voice over text. So, LinkedIn, we have the ability to send those automated voice messages as well. So that's whole nother rabbit hole I could go down, but multimodal outreach too. And you're using emails and LinkedIn, and you're connecting. Hey, Ben, I also sent you an email. All of a sudden, Ben feels kind of special because I've done two things for him. So what you're saying is definitely resonates. And I think with our audience that tune into these episodes, finding folks like yourself with innovative technology that's coming out, it's exciting, and we get excited to talk about it, but we want to be able to get noticed. I mean, it's as good as, the paper that it's written on if you can't have a conversation that's impactful, right? So.
Well, one of the things I'd really encourage your group, anybody doing this, as long as they're good in front of cameras and they're comfortable speaking, is there's a lot of programs you can do quick hitter videos, and you can attach them to LinkedIn on your page, to an email. I mean, I think there's like a 30-second video of what are you doing? And I think this is firm grasp on the obvious, but think of it this way. How would you like to be approached if someone's approaching you with something new? And think about what you do in your daily routine and how many things you just ignore or erase or throw the garbage if it's an email, or the outreach you just ignore. And then you have to assess, why do I ignore it? Why? Because it's not personal. There's no connectivity to my life, my worldview, to anything about me. And so the ability of a distributor or rep to get more personal, in other words, do research on that person, that doctor, where they practice at. What was some of listen, with AI, you can go to Grok on X, and you can put in a doctor's name and they'll give you War and Peace on that person. I just think it's important to have a personal connection and always look to make the relationship first, not the sale. It's not about the sale. The sale will come as a byproduct that the doctor or the person you're selling to feels like you care about them, that it's not just about a transaction. It's hard to do because you got a gun to your head with something called a sales quota. But it's so important to have a real connective tissue relationship, even if nothing comes from it. Like when I think of it this way, when I'm trying to curate investors for my company, it's not that I want an investor just for this deal, because I'm gonna have a lot of deals come across my plate. I want investors for the long haul. Maybe for this deal, maybe they don't take this deal. Maybe it's the next 2 deals from this one. But mentally, you got to think like, maybe the doctor didn't respond to this, but I'm going to make the best case effort I can to really have a genuine human connection and let them know just on a human level, I care about their professional career that they spent years developing and thousands of dollars curating, right? I'm going to tap into that and let them know as a human, first and foremost, that's the most important thing, because I guarantee if you do that and they feel it's genuine and real, sales will follow. But I think it's sometimes a cart before the horse. Why? Because you get the gun to your head, your boss is pounding on you, you got to hit numbers this month, and everything's non-organic. Everything's not real. Everything sort of feels like the emails you get that are unsolicited that you just dump in trash. So that's the challenge and that's the opportunity. So I think videos, get your personality, get your voice out there. Who are you? Are you passionate about this? What do you know about this? Maybe the doctor's never heard of this. So I think there's so many ways with AI and today and how you can present it that could really differentiate you. And it's just a matter of getting, like, you're very confident speaking on a camera, right? In this kind of setting. If you're not comfortable, then work on it and get there, because it's a teachable, trainable thing to do.
Right. And to your point, it's specifically to our audience, and you hit on this, with medical distribution models, especially our independent guys who maybe have multiple products or manufacturers they're working with. That relationship becomes even more important than if you just have one flagship product that speaks for itself, because at the end of the day, companies sell, you're bobbing and weaving, but your surgeon relationships want to know that you are a trusted advisor at the end of the day. And that's how you want to position yourself as a medical distributor. You want to bring quality products to your surgeons, and that it's not just a Me Too product that you're trying to nickel and dime. And certainly we're all running businesses at the end of the day as well, but they want to be like, okay, Ben, what are you bringing me here? You're asking me to use this, and it's, the failure rate, I'm having to, readmit patient, what's going on? But, and not everything's going to be a home run, but that is such an important factor, is that relationship piece and the trust. Especially if you mentioned like your investors, they want to be like, well, I really trust Ben. If he's bringing me an opportunity, he really knows what he's talking about. He's had this, and this succeed, and I'm going to take his advice on this, or I feel like confident in putting my money with him, my investment, because not only does the product speak for itself, I believe in it, but I believe in him. He's vetted this. So, you're the one that's out there vetting the product, right? So, yeah, I think that's such great advice for our listeners. And certainly, I love the mission of Retreiver Medical and what you guys are doing, and the product in and of itself. I know very little about this from a clinical standpoint. My background is more in like foot and ankle and orthopedics, but certainly DVT is a huge concern there. So it's not that it's not of conversation with the folks that we deal with on a daily basis. But outside of that, when you guys are when you're, let's fast forward to 2027, what do you think is going to be your model for distribution and sales in the marketplace? Do you think it will be hiring a direct sales force? Do you think you will be leaning into distribution models? What are your thoughts, or have you even gotten there really?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've got a 5-year plan. We've got a cap table, manning table, a financial model, pro forma. We've sort of vision cast where we think it's going to go. I think it's a base case sort of forecast. And the way we think about it in this particular realm with venous thromboembolism and devices that treat pulmonary embolism and DVT, it really needs to be a direct sales force, because it's a high contact sport. It's a relationship sport. We would look for reps that already have existing relationships with pulmonary embolism, or with IRs, interventional radiologists, interventional cardiologists, vascular surgeons to some extent, that have the car keys. Because, part of the challenge with selling, whether you're a distributor or direct, is getting through the products committee. And products committee nowadays, given the cost constraints, aren't interested in having 20 of the same products on the shelf, right? They want to have the best top 2 or 3 that the physicians can rely upon. So it's about getting in there quickly, compressing the sales cycle, and you do that by hiring the reps with the relationships. And unfortunately or fortunately, in the pulmonary embolism side, since it's kind of an emergent procedure where someone shows up with clots in the lungs and it feels like you're having a heart attack, and you got to jump on it quickly because it could turn into congestive heart failure. In those instances, you have to have reps that are Johnny on the spot. And it depends on the technology, but it's a really high touch kind of sale, relationship sale. And it's really been modeled out by Inari. If you go too outside of that paradigm of what doctors expect and in terms of the service they expect and how quickly you respond, that's sort of what drives more of a direct model. Now, in a perfect world, you'd want to have sort of a blend. Maybe it's distributors and maybe it's direct. But again, this is one of those things where there will be time spent in the lab, in the cath lab, supporting these procedures to some degree. So in this case, it'll be a direct sales model. And eventually I have it mapped out to about 40 reps over time.
Okay. Very good. And that is probably going to take you out to around the 2027 mark, right? Is when you would be
so
in the process.
27, we bring in 10 reps, and then 28, we double it. 29, go to 30, and then go to 40. And like everything in business will tell you what it needs. While I have a grand plan, and I always tell investors, this is a forecast, which means it's going to be wrong. But part of how you manage your business as a sales rep, and I encourage them to think about this as a distributor, you should have your own dashboard, your own performance dashboard. Just like with my board, I have a performance dashboard of the most important things. And as we get into the commercial end of things, you want to know what's the customer capture rate, what's their lifetime value, right? There's certain things you want to know about your customer base. What's the reorder rate? All those things start to become paramount as you're going out there because it talks to your effectiveness of reaching customers, your messaging, all that stuff. So I think there's opportunities to really get smart. And again, AI plays a role on the dashboard and the key metrics you're looking for in managing your business, whether you're sales or distributor or whatever. You need to have the numbers. In fact, I go back to flying. You can't fly a plane unless you have an attitude indicator, meaning am I upside down or right side up? What's my airspeed? What's my altitude? You need certain things as a pilot to be able to take off and land successfully, right? So same thing's true in business. So I'd encourage people to figure out what those key metrics are because it tells you the health and life of your outreach, right? Am I effective in reaching these customers? Is my approach effective? If not, I got to change it, right? There's this concept called plan, do, check, act. I'm sure you've heard of it, where you implement a plan, right? You plan it, you do it. The thing that everybody forgets is to check if it's working because they feel good that they implemented something, right? And they just go along their merry way and say, hey, we've got a plan here. But then management has to step in and say, yeah, but is it working? And you need to know that on the front end, first couple of weeks, is it working? If it's not, then you tweak the strategy. And that's wherein lies the opportunity, right? Plan, do, check to see if it's working. If not, tweak it, and then you act on it. And you just keep doing that tweak every week or 2 weeks, right? You just try to kind of improve that cycle, if you will.
I love that. And that is a big piece to our operations side that we talked with folks about, and operations and leading into their sales. And so keeping a pulse on where are you and what are you doing? And that is where truly AI and technology can be so helpful, because as long as you are keeping yourself accountable and you're feeding it the information, it's going to adapt and give you the output that you need in order to scale effectively.
Exactly.
So awesome. Well, I mean, Ben, I think you have a wealth of knowledge. I feel like you might be able to write a book if you haven't already. Maybe you should do that. At least motivational speaking, you're great, especially from a sales perspective. So I really appreciate your insight. And I think folks that are listening in are going to take a lot from this conversation, and certainly, can be of benefit to you. I know 2027 will get here before we realize it, right? We're going to blink, and I have 2 little girls, so I feel like time is way different than it ever used to be. That feels 2027. That's like next month,
Well, kids are markers, and you look at them, it's like, well, they're that age, and now they're this age, and then you look at yourself, and it's like, where did time go? And they're a great time adjuster, if you will. It's like it's real when you have kids.
It is totally real. It changes everything, and you don't know it until it happens to you. But I just putting that in perspective, that certainly I'd love to keep in touch and have you back. When it gets closer to time for you to launch this thing, or it's not that it's not launched, but really get it out there and get your key folks. So I'm happy. I'm excited to see what comes of Retriever Medical, and you guys changing some lives out there.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
one of the things I want to encourage and leave just as thought, leave with your group, whoever watches, is that I'd say the top 1% of salespeople who drive incredible sales for the organizations don't chase their customers. They build gravity. Think about that. So you
Yep.
think about what gravity does. If you build gravity, they will come to you. It's like a gravity well, just like in our universe. So it's not about chasing, it's about creating a compelling opportunity, which means you've done your homework, you stay super humble, you take massive action in the process, and you never assume anything, because tomorrow's another day, another technology, a company that's going to get acquired, that's going to disrupt your business model. It's staying nimble and fast, but also, like you said earlier, you have relationships with doctors that you're a key trusted advisor, and now you're creating your gravity of dependence on the services that you bring that transcend a company getting acquired and pulled out from underneath you, because that's a challenge that distributors always think about and worry about.
Yeah, you are valuable, right? Like you have some value to them, and that's what they're buying into, not necessarily the product. So
And being the gravity
I
in personal relationships, right? Because
yeah,
why are people struggling so much? Well, what's the value that everybody brings? And it's a constant, just like with your kids. I mean, hey, isn't it amazing how your kids are just gravity poles for you? And what have they done really for you? Nothing, but they're just pure love and incredible human beings. But they're like gravity. It's
I
amazing.
feed them. That's why they just
Yeah.
want food. I love it. Well, yes, I love all these pearls. It's great advice, and you guys are going to do amazing things. I can just feel it. That's exciting.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, I really enjoyed the opportunity to talk with you, and anything we can do, let me know, and look forward to staying connected.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Ben, and you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We'll be in touch for sure. And if somebody has a question about your product, what is your website? Can you just remind us? It's RTV
Yeah, it's
Medical.
rtvmed.com. So Romeo Tango Victor Mike Echo Delta.com. So rtvmed.com. You can go there and
Okay.
find all the information on the company.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, check out Ben's website, and we'll look forward to chatting with you in the future. Thank
Hi,
you so
Karen.
much.
Have a
Bye,
great
Ben.
weekend.
Have a good
Thanks.
one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Awesome.